Hello and welcome to the roundup of Week 6 of the Singer Schools League here on www.thepupray.com, where we're sharing the passion of this school season with you. We had 4 outstanding games in the A Division and we'll bring those to you one by one. Let's start off with the first game that we had on the cards. That was last Thursday when St. Joseph's travelled up, last Friday rather, when St. Joseph's travelled up to Kingswood. This was expected to be a fairly big win for Kingswood because St. Joseph's had been one of the underperforming sides in the other division of the A segment. So as a result of that, we expected St. Joseph's not to travel well, but obviously something had been done. They had got some psychological motivation and they managed to match Kingswood almost try for try. Although they did manage to concede a lead to the Kingswoodians, they fought manfully to catch up to that, but it was Kingswood who prevailed in the end by 17 points to 13, making sure that they keep their hopes of beating Isipatana alive and trying to manage to get a foothold onto the league title this time around. Perhaps they won't be able to do that, but especially given Isipatana's performance this week, but we'll get to that in a bit. But Kingswood will be surprised by the way that they managed to beat St. Joseph's College, because it was something that wasn't expected. They expected to run circles around this team, and St. Joseph's with their big forwards managed to really contain the Kingswood team that couldn't run with the same freedom that they had been running in the previous game. So it just goes to show that there's a massive gulf between the teams in Segment B and Segment A of this Division 1 championship, and this is why the format sometimes doesn't pit the best teams against each other, because you can't use this format to decide which teams are going to be good, which teams are going to be bad in the years that have gone previously. So that's something that the authorities really need to think about, and that's why also Wesley, who are a team that almost beat Isipatana, almost beat Royal, almost beat Trinity as well, or got close to Trinity, are languishing in the Plate Championship, where they almost certainly would have beaten Science College and Thomas's College and maybe even Royal and maybe even St. Peter's and maybe even Kingswood. You never know. So they're unfortunately languishing. Well, sorry, they didn't beat Kingswood, but they might have beaten any of the other 3 teams. So you never know what this format could yield. Then we had the next game. We had Trinity College taking on Science College. That was on Saturday. That was up in Kandy as well. And Trinity scoring 5 tries, and that was an easy win for them. What they will be upset with is the fact that their defense stuttered and they conceded 2 tries and 2 penalties to the Science College team. They wouldn't have liked the fact that their try line got crossed twice, and that's something Neil Footy will definitely be addressing, I'm sure, in the weeks coming up. So they managed to score 5 tries. Their attacking prowess has never actually been in question. They're very good with the loose ball. They don't really have a lot of structure in their game. That's something they need to get back into their game, and if they can make their set piece an attacking threat as well, then this Trinity side will be much more dangerous. But they've finished a lot of their big games against Royal and of course against Isipatana this time around, so they'll just be working on trying to win the next few of their games and hope that Isipatana slip up somewhere along the way. But Isipatana didn't look anything like slipping up. That was an under lights game on Friday as well. They smashed St. Thomas's absolutely off the park, 61 points to nil. It was 15-0 at halftime, and the Thomians kept their hopes up. They thought they were playing some decent rugby, and indeed they were. It was a very entertaining game. It was a game really of 2 halves for the Isipatanians, because they absolutely broke free in the second half, largely thanks to some inept tackling by the Thomians, who didn't seem to have whatever they had in the first half. Something that was said at the halftime huddle didn't make a positive difference for them. It made a negative difference, and they conceded 46 points in the second half. That's more than a point a minute, which is something that really makes for sorry reading for this Thomian side. Umalka Gunaratna leading the charge once again for Isipatana, scoring 3 tries. We have the prop, Disa Nayaka, who scored 2 tries as well in the first half and was still hungry for the ball going into the 80th minute. Spoke volumes of the fitness of this Isipatana team, who were attacking with just as much pace, just as much fury as they were in the first minute of the game. So this was really the first dominant performance that we have seen from Isipatana. True, they are unbeaten. True, they have beaten sides like Royal, like Trinity, like Wesley. But the fact is they haven't really been able to dominate a team, and this was the first time they did that. And this showed that they have real credentials for being being a top side, being an unbeaten side this season. They didn't look like they deserved it in their previous wins, but this time, with this attacking show, they really looked like they were a side that deserves to win the league title and deserves to remain unbeaten. So it was an outstanding performance, fitness coming to the fore, and their support play was really good. I thought the tries that Punchiheva and Kongahawat scored were really good elaborations of why it's so important to be able to give inside passes if you're a winger, and that was something that was a treat to behold, really, watching these guys play. And their set piece also has improved tremendously from the first round of games. Then we had the other match, which was expected to be hotly contested, Royal College taking on St. Peter's on their home grounds, and it ended up an 18-5 victory for a very good Royal team. And lots of Royalists are wondering, well, if we played like this, we might really have had Trinity's number in the Bradby Shield, at least in the second leg, and certainly they would have, because their forwards were in the thick of things once again. They were doubling up, really taking the St. Peter's forwards out of the game. They were winning every tackle situation. They were winning every contact breakdown situation, and St. Peter's really didn't have a lot of ball at all. Even when they did have the ball, Shamri Bura was completely off his game at fly half for St. Peter's, throwing it wide initially and not really having the runners to distribute in a efficient fashion. Avishka Ranasinghe got injured in the first half, and when he went off, they lost one of their best distributors, and therefore Kevin Dixon was taking the ball way too early in the piece, and he was getting caught in possession. Banu moving from the wing to the center position for Royal has made a difference to them in attack as well as in defense. He's a very strong player, and he scored a good long-range try as well, and the other two tries were made by the forwards, who barged it over with that famous rolling maul that has been such a hallmark of Royal Rugby in the last 5-6 years or so. So that was an easy win for Royal, a surprisingly easy win for Royal, who played very well and contained the attacking threats of St. Peter's. St. Peter's completely shorn of ideas. They didn't look like they knew how to put that game back in order once it had fallen away from them, and that was what clearly was showing, because they didn't have a playmaker. They didn't have a guy who took control of the game and said, look, this is what we have to do, and that was something that was really lacking on-field leadership, missing for the Pete Wrights at that point. So 18-5 that one finished. So those were the results of this week. We'll tell you what's happening next week. And next week we've got on the 7th of June, that's on Friday, we have Royal, who travel up to Kingswood. That should be a very interesting game. Two contrasting styles of play coming up against each other, and Royal College forwards against this fast, pacey Kingswood, who will want to play the game very wide. So let's see whether the tactical battle will be won by Kingswood or Royal. If Royal manage to keep the ball, then definitely they will be in with a chance to win that game if they play like they did against St. Peter's. St. Peter's take on St. Joseph's in a grudge battle. That's the big game for both these sides, and the way they are playing, that game is up for grabs, really. Anybody could win it, because St. Joseph's have been improving, and St. Peter's in the last week have really gone down, and their confidence will be on a low. St. Joseph's confidence will be on a high. And if you take it man for man, I think St. Joseph's is probably the more talented side, and this is the team that won the under-16 championship, so they have played together for quite a while. St. Peter's also a team that was up there in the lower age group divisions, so they will fancy their chances too. That should be a match to really watch out for next weekend. We have Isipatana taking on Science College. Should be a pretty easy win for Isipatana, one would think. And the other match also on the 7th of June is Trinity College, who host St. Thomas's for the Canon RS Deserum Trophy at Pallakale. That should also probably, given last week's display, be a pretty one-sided affair for Trinity College, unless the Thomians really manage to come up with a better game plan and execution of that game plan, because they throw it wide far too early. They've got a good forward pack. They need to keep the ball with them, and they need to play what is the equivalent of 10-man rugby or maybe 11-man rugby, because they've got an experienced Hashaka Senadayaka, the captain, outside the fly half. So let's see how that game plans out as well. Let's not forget that Trinity's set piece has not been the best. So if they can disrupt that, maybe the RS Deserum Trophy, Canon RS Deserum Trophy, will be a little closer than we expect. So that's the action to look forward to, and the action that happened on week 6, action to look forward to on week 7 as well. Sharing the passion of the Singer A Division League with you here on thepapare.com. Don't forget to watch all our live streaming games next weekend.